Assalamu alaikum, I'm Aisha and you're watching Samaa News. Here are today's headlines. US President Donald Trump has told aides he is willing to end the military campaign against Iran even if the Strait of Hormuz remains largely closed, and leave a complex operation to reopen it for a later date. The Wall Street Journal reported that in recent days, Trump and his aides assessed that a mission to pry open the choke point would push the conflict beyond his timeline of 4 to 6 weeks. He decided that the US should achieve its main goals of hobbling Iran's Navy and its missile stocks and wind down current hostilities while pressuring Tehran diplomatically to resume the free flow of trade. On the other hand, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has said that any decision to end the ongoing war will be made on Iran's terms. He stated that the decision to end the war would depend on prevailing conditions and would be made by Iran itself. He emphasized that any resolution would take into account all circumstances while safeguarding the country's dignity, security, and national interests. The Iranian president made it clear that protecting the honor and interests of the Iranian people remains a top priority. Meanwhile, thousands of soldiers from the US Army's elite 82nd Airborne Division have started arriving in the Middle East as Trump weighs his next steps in the war against Iran. 2 US officials told Reuters that the paratroopers, based out of Fort Bragg, North Carolina, add to the thousands of additional sailors, Marines, and Special Operations Forces sent to the region. Over the weekend, about 2,500 Marines arrived in the Middle East.
Iran's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Esmail Baghai has denied any direct negotiations with the United States, calling Washington's demands excessive and unrealistic. The remarks contradict statements by President Trump, who has said talks are taking place both directly and indirectly. President Donald Trump expresses confidence that a deal with Iran could be near, saying negotiations were going extremely well, while noting both direct and indirect talks are underway. He claimed recent US strikes effectively achieved regime change in Tehran, though military operations continue. Trump highlighted Iran's agreement to allow up to 20 oil tankers through the Strait of Hormuz as a sign of respect, underscoring the dual-track approach of diplomacy and military pressure. Pakistan is playing a key mediating role. Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar said Islamabad is preparing to host meaningful talks between Washington and Tehran, with a quadrilateral meeting, including Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Egypt, emphasizing de-escalation and regional stability. Iran, however, warned the US against humiliation and threatened strong retaliation if ground troops were deployed, signaling continued tension despite diplomatic efforts.
US President Donald Trump has warned that Washington could completely obliterate Iran's energy and water infrastructure if a deal is not reached soon. In a social media post, Trump said the threat would also apply if the Strait of Hormuz is not immediately reopened to global shipping. He added that the United States is in what he described as serious discussions with a more reasonable leadership in Iran, claiming progress toward ending the conflict.
Meanwhile, the White House says President Donald Trump is considering asking Arab countries to help cover the cost of the Iran war. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says the idea is under discussion as Washington continues negotiations with Tehran. She added that Iran's public stance differs from private messages, with talks were described as ongoing and constructive.
Spain has closed its airspace to US aircraft involved in operations against Iran. Defense Minister Margarita Robles said Spain will not allow the use of its airspace or jointly operated military bases for actions linked to the conflict. The move marks a further step by Spain to distance itself from military involvement in the ongoing war. That's all for now. For more updates, visit www.samaa.tv. Thank you for watching Samaa News.